sports.
Welcome to The Playbook, where we're talking sports, entertainment, and lifestyle. I'm your host, Mina SayWhat, and we're 100% digital, 100% live, and 100% real. Let's count them down. Hello, family. It's our digital sports show, The Playbook. I'm your host, Mina SayWhat. We go live every Monday at 1:45 on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch at R&B Philly. I want to bring in my friend, senior sports and entertainment editor for These Urban Times, Terrell Thomas.
Good afternoon.
A.K.A. El Dorado.
How you doing on this lovely Monday?
It's okay. I like the S. We got a Syracuse basketball hat on. Wait a minute.
No, it's a black-owned young man, his business and whatnot. But I do see how you get the orange out of it, so I'm not mad at that at all.
Okay, yeah. So I went to Syracuse this weekend. I went to their final game at the Carrier Dome. Jim Boeheim, the coach for Syracuse, both of his sons are playing on his team. So they're called like the Boeheim brothers. So I went to go watch them in their final game at the Carrier Dome before Buddy Boeheim goes off and hopefully plays pro. But I'm very much in the Syracuse state of mind. So the S immediately brought me there.
Syracuse, the Sixers, you a globetrotter right now.
Oh, man, listen, if I could travel the world, just watch basketball games for a living, I would. Speaking of basketball, let's talk basketball and get into our Philly plays. Our Sixers lost to number one seeded the Miami Heat. They are number one in the East. It was brutal. We're number two in the East. So this is definitely a game that we anticipated, and it was bad. 99-82. We didn't even crack 100 points, which definitely has not been the case since James Harden has been on the roster. He's definitely increased our scoring output exponentially since he's been on the court. Now, James Harden was having a scheduled day off. He's been dealing with the hamstring. So we knew that he wasn't going to play. And this was a back-to-back game. So this is obviously hard on the body, especially when you got to go from Philly to Miami and take that flight right away. But it was just kind of painful to watch us battle the number one team with this new lineup and not see what it looks like, because this potentially could be an Eastern Conference game, playoff game that we watched, and we just lost miserably. What did you see from our team in the absence of James Harden?
Oh, well, excuse me. I think you just kind of hit it on the head right there. How you said this could possibly be an Eastern Conference playoff matchup down the line. And I think the Sixers knew that in the back of their mind somewhere. And that had a little bit something to do with why that was the game in which James Harden had his scheduled rest. He could have rested against Cleveland. There were other opportunities to get him to get rest out there for Harden. But now Miami doesn't have game tape, against Harden. Of course, they'll see what he does against other opponents. But now the Miami Heat don't have game tape. And then I also think, as we'll talk about later on in today's show, the Sixers' upcoming matchups may be a little more important to the standings than that Heat matchup. So they did look, a little off compared to what we've seen recently. They look like world beaters with James Harden in the lineup. But I don't think it's too much to worry about as of right now.
Yeah, so I believe we're 3 games behind the Heat. So even if we did win, that would not position us in that number one slot. So you're thinking this is more strategic of let's not give away our game plan. Let's not have them see how James Harden looks playing against their team. Yeah. And, obviously rest him for some of the other games that are very beatable games. One we'll talk about later on in the show, the Nets game on Thursday. Okay, so you thought this was strategic. I kind of thought that too. Like, y'all gonna sit him out during the Miami game? This is the game that you chose? So, yeah, but I was disappointed in just the lack of stepping up that I saw from the rest of the team, especially some of the guys that are positioning and battling for that 6th man, that 7th man position. I feel like our second lineup is still trying to develop themselves and establish themselves a little bit. So, and Joel had 22 points. I mean, it was hard for him. They definitely guarded him very well. Maxey had 17, Tobias had 16, and then the rest of the lineup was just blah. I mean, if you look at this, Furkan Korkmaz started and had 2 points, but we'll get to that. Okay. Now, another player that's kind of up in the air is Deandre Jordan right now. The Sixers did sign Deandre Jordan, which is he's a center. So hopefully the thinking is that he's going to be the backup center to Joel Embiid. Right now, Coach Rivers has been playing Paul Reed at that center position. It has not worked at all, especially when we're playing these big teams. So Deandre adds a little bit of height. However, he is 33 years old. He is a former all-star. He's not playing the way that he used to play. He didn't play much, and he didn't play very well when he was with the Lakers. However, he was disgruntled there. Was this a good pickup for us?
I really think this was a surprisingly, sneakily great pickup. Daryl Morey is just working wonders right now. And this is a gentleman in DJ who has a history with Doc Rivers. He played with Doc Rivers as the Clipper. He also played with James Harden in Houston. So he's someone that can come in immediately and already have a chemistry with key people on the team. And as you mentioned, I do think this will be the gentleman that'll be the backup to Joel Embiid. And he does have a skill set that's different than Andre Drummond when he was here. So I do believe this was a great pickup for our Sixers, and hopefully we get to see him on the court soon.
When you say he has a different skill set, what is that? Because in my opinion, Andre Drummond has been the best Joel Embiid backup we've had. I mean, even better than Dwight Howard, only because Andre got the job done. I really liked Dwight. However, I felt like his behavior got in the way a lot of really critical last minute plays. But so that's why I prefer Andre a little bit. But what different skill set does Deandre have to Andre?
Well, I believe it starts defensively. And when you look at Drummond is a phenomenal rebounder. But outside of that, on the defensive end, he's kind of I don't want to say a sore spot, but he's damn near a sore spot because he cannot play the pick and roll. He's also he's a liability when you have some of these bigs who can get out on a perimeter. And that is somewhere where Deandre Jordan shines. Now, Deandre Jordan may not be quite the rebounder that Drummond is, but he's also a shot blocker. He's a high flyer. And as you mentioned, he was disgruntled, I believe, as well in LA. So although he's 33, he's still not old. You know, he still has, I believe, some miles on those legs. So I believe in situations later in the playoffs in which Drummond may have been a liability for us, Jordan will be able to fill in that role greatly in limited minutes.
So me and my boyfriend argue about Deandre Jordan because I'm like, right now, we're so short in that second team. We just need the tall guy to go up. That's all we need right now. And it's like, he has a very small role that we just need him to play, which is what we don't have. So I agree with you. I did think this acquisition was a good one. Now let's see how he plays, right? He's not disgruntled here. He's starting from the beginning. He's played with James. He has a history playing for the Clippers and a Coach Doc. So let's give him a chance and see that if he can fill that role, which to me is primarily shot blocking and going up and getting rebounds and just being like a tall, strong force in the middle where we don't have our guys just stepping in for a wide open layup, which is what's been happening right now with our current second squad. Now, speaking of the second squad, another argument I've been having with my boyfriend, and he swears he's a sports analyst and, you know, about who the sixth man is, right? So first we were arguing about who should start, but now we have the starters pretty solidified, right? Now we're arguing about who should come off the bench. So James Harden didn't play in this last game, and they had Furkan Korkmaz come off the bench. So normally when one of your star players are out, the first person off the bench, I guess, should be the strongest person in your second lineup. No disrespect to Korkmaz, but I don't believe he is the strongest person in that lineup. And I get that Doc gives him opportunities and he's very talented. But for me, he's just too inconsistent to be in that starting lineup. I feel like he's someone that needs to come off the bench, maybe eighth off the bench, not first off the bench. Who do you think is our strongest sixth man right now on the team?
Whew, that is a great question. And
this is a spirited debate in my household.
Right now, outside of Korkmaz, I don't really see who would be. Millsap is still new out there, so I don't want to throw that pressure on him. It might be Korkmaz. I would switch things up. I mean, I would switch things up quite honestly to keep it all the way funky with you. I would start Millsap. take out Tobias Harris and have him start to come in as the sixth man, and maybe he'll start shining in that role. That's something totally outside the box. But as it stands right now, I feel like it's got to be Forky. Who did you see?
I'm only judging off of recent plays. I feel more comfortable George Niang coming off the bench.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
To me, he's a more consistent player. To me.
Bad.
But we argued about that, and then I'm like, okay, if it's not George, I would rather Shake Milton come off the bench, and Shake is a little inconsistent as well.
Yeah, very much so, yes.
So that's my thing. I would rather see Danny Green start when James Harden is out. And you know how I feel about Danny Green.
Your favorite player. We got to get you that jersey. We
got to get you that nerves. You know how he irks my nerves, but I would much rather see Danny Green come out than Korkmaz. And when James Harden is in there, I think our first guy off the bench needs to be George Niang. That's just how I'm seeing it right now. But we have a severe deficiency in that second unit, and I think having James Harden not there further highlights it for me, especially when you have Korkmaz starting. And then gets 2 points after starting. Hold on. Let me see. Let me read the stats. He played 22 minutes, 4 rebounds, 0 assists, 2 points. And then George in that game had 9 points. He played 2 more minutes than Furky, right? He played 24 minutes, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 9 points. It's not the strongest 6-man, but considering what we have, I feel more comfortable with George Niang being the first guy off the block. And if James is out or some of our other starters, I think either George or Danny Green should be starting. Just my personal opinion.
I'm not mad at that.
All right. Ben Simmons, he's not even playing. We over here talking about who should be the 6th man and trying to, line up our second lineup. Ben isn't even in the first lineup yet for the Nets. He is suffering from back soreness, from back tightness, according to.
I really don't think it's either of the two. I don't think this is a strategic move for the postseason by the Nets. I just personally, and it's tough in what we do, just talking and voicing our opinions on different things in sports and entertainment. But from my opinion, I would question just how severe that back injury is. And I just think this has more to do with Ben Simmons not wanting to play in Philadelphia. I just do. Now, as you mentioned, he will supposedly, as reports say, as of now, via the Nets, he will be in the building. He will be at the Wells Fargo Center, and he will ride the bench. So in my opinion, like, if you're going to sit on the bench and be heckled, just suit up, throw them sneaks on, and get out there and play, because, oh man, it's going to be a tough game on Thursday night. I know folks who are already camping out in South Philadelphia, just waiting. So no, I don't believe, though, to answer the question straight up, I don't believe this is a strategic move for the postseason or anything like that. I don't think it's a chess move on that behalf. I do believe it just has more to do with Ben Simmons still not wanting to play in front of Philadelphia fans. And I hope the basketball gods, give us what we need and just give us a Sixers Nets postseason matchup where, no more running can be done.
I don't understand what kind of injury. Is this not an injury? I mean, the coach clearly said this isn't an injury, right? Because people were like, Ben Simmons is injured. The Nets coach said, no, this isn't an injury. Well, what kind of back soreness is this that got him out for what, 2 weeks now? What is he, 25? He's a 25-year-old young man, right? Ben Simmons. What's going on with his back at this point? So again, you don't want to question a player when they say they are going through something, but it's just ironic that this came the beginning of last week, and now we're headed into a second week, and they're already predicting that he's not going to be able to play on Thursday. Is this really just tightness, or is there an injury that's not being disclosed? I don't know.
I mean, you just hit it on the head. It's tightness. It is back pains. You get real tight, and that weight on your back of knowing you got to come to Philly and deal with all the heckling that's going to take place. That's a heavy boulder to hold on your back. So,
all right.
What do you do?
Well, we'll see what happens to him on the bench. Okay.
Stay classy, Philly. Stay classy.
Right. Don't pull a Russell. What is it?
Hey,
A
don't throw
Russell
nothing at
Westbrook? A
don't throw
Russell.
nothing at the man.
Yeah. Don't pull a Russell Westbrook on him. This is kind of interesting. So in an interview with Tidal, shout out to Elliott Wilson, Snoop Dogg talked about the Super Bowl halftime show performance and how epic it was and how he really felt supported by Jay-Z. He said as soon as he got off the stage, they were hugging, they were just showing each other so much love. And he talked about how Jay-Z really went to bat for this halftime show, saying that if everyone doesn't perform, he's gonna quit. Apparently, there was some concerns from the NFL regarding some gang affiliations. Obviously, we know that Snoop has had them in his past. Also, some of the lyrics in the Kendrick Lamar song, we've talked about how the NFL asked him to take out, we don't like the po-po part. I think it's admirable that Jay-Z went to bat for hip hop. I think that's the bigger thing, right? He put his job on the line to say, no, I feel strongly about this show. You hired me to put this show together. Let me do my job. And if you're not going to allow me to do my job, I'm just going to walk out of here. But do you think that the NFL had, I guess it was right in trying to censor some of the things that they try to censor?
Well, I think that one, Jay-Z did do the right thing, and that was a very noble stance to take. And I do think at the same time, of course, it's always been a touchy situation with the black culture, the African American culture in the NFL. I think that's also been highlighted, recently with everything that's taking place with kneeling and Colin Kaepernick and a lot of the stances and boycotts that have been driven in the way of the NFL. But I do still understand that the NFL is still at the end of the day a private business, and when they look at their target audience and who they're wanted to protect, they do have a great relationship with the military and the police. They can't really take a stance, as you mentioned, of picking any sides in the gang cultures and things of that nature. So I do understand where you don't want to censor a person's creativity, their artistry, or censor their voice, especially being an NFL with all the censoring that people believe they do. But in that instance, with the Super Bowl being as global as it is, and to many being the biggest game or the biggest event of the year, they did have to have some type of mild regulations. So I'm not mad at the request in which they made. But again, hats off to Jay-Z for what he did, and still hats off to Snoop and Dre for still representing for the culture, representing themselves, and still letting their voices be heard.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I think as a company, you have the right to say, hey, I don't really want to have someone on my platform that has clear gang affiliations. Like you have Snoop Dogg crip walking on the Super Bowl stage. Like, hello. What? I was watching that. I'm like, is this happening? Is he really? Am I watching this? So I understand where the NFL is coming from as a company, and you don't want to get involved in that kind of situation, but then I also think it's very admirable for Jay-Z to really go to bat for hip hop and for these performers. So I was kind of on the fence about this. Moving on, it is Women's History Month. Yay. We are in full swing when it comes not only to men's NCAA basketball, but also women's NCAA basketball and tournaments. The SEC tournament was over the weekend, and the Kentucky Wildcats had this insane upset. First of all, they were ranked number 7. Insane upset against South Carolina, the number 1 seed in the SEC. Watch this.
Dre Edwards, top of the key with the 3! South Carolina doesn't have a timeout. 4.2 seconds. South Carolina with a prayer. Big Blue Madness in March. They've waited 40 years. The SEC tournament title to the Kentucky Wildcats.
Wow. I just got chills just listening to that. 40 years And we love a good NCAA March Madness upset. However, our very own Dawn Staley from Philadelphia coaches South Carolina, the defending champions. It was definitely hard to see her lose, and obviously they still have the NCAA women's tournament on the way, which I'm sure this is going to be motivation for that. But, our thoughts are going out with Dawn and her team because she's a friend of the Playbook.
Yeah, that's why you play the game, though. Hell of a shot by that young lady, that young Wildcat in Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned, that was the first thing I thought of. I thought of Dawn Staley, sadly, outside of the young ladies even on the court for South Carolina. But as you mentioned, that's just nothing but motivation because the big tournament, I'll say, that the prize they're still waiting on is still in front of them. So good luck to those ladies. But congratulations to the Kentucky Wildcats.
Absolutely. Now, in addition to the, March Madness going on the women's side, we also have it on the men's side. As I mentioned, I went to a really big, important game at Syracuse this weekend. Selection Sunday is this Sunday for NCAA men's tournament. So we'll see who's matching up with who's seeded what. That is happening Sunday, March 13th, 6 p.m. That's Eastern time on CBS. I know it's hard to make a prediction, but anything you want to predict about that?
It is still early, but I would just say that I will be watching to see what Duke does, although Duke just recently lost to North Carolina in Coach K's final game, or final, college regular season game, as they say. I think they'll still be a dangerous team in the tournament. And I'm going to watch out for two coaches that who did their thing in the NBA as well and back at their alma maters, and Juwan Howard in Michigan. And I'll also be keeping my eye on Penny Hardaway and what he does in Memphis. So those are three teams that I'll kind of be watching out for.
All right, let's talk about Sixers this week, plays this week. Whew, it's going to be an exciting one. James Harden hopefully comes back tonight. Deandre Jordan, hopefully we'll see in that lineup tonight. A good game against the Bulls, and the Bulls are balling right now.
Mm-hmm.
The Nets game, we already talked. Ben Simmons going to be riding that bench. But even so, this is an opportunity for Seth Curry and Andre Drummond to come back. People love them still, so there's definitely no hard feelings there. And then we round up the week with the Magic in away game, 6:00. What are your predictions for this?
I see a 3-0 week for the Sixers. I do think Harden will be in the lineup tonight against the Bulls. I think that'll be a very entertaining, very good game.
Yes.
But the Sixers will find a way to pull that out. James Harden will get another triple-double there. That Thursday game is the game we're all waiting for. But I think the Sixers will get it done right there. Kevin Durant will have a big game. But again, Harden will have a big game to kind of counter that. And Embiid will be the difference in that game Thursday. And then I don't want to laugh at these guys, but it's the Orlando Magic. I'm quite sure that the Sixers won't be distracted by Mickey Mouse and them when they get to Orlando.
Thanks.
And they'll handle business there as well.
Thanks. So yeah, I'm anticipating that Thursday game as well. It'll be nice to see how things match up since we literally swapped rosters. The only unfortunate part is we won't see how Ben Simmons fits in that puzzle. That is the Playbook. Thank you for watching. Terrell, how can they find you?
You can check me out here, of course, on Mondays. Always great to sit here and talk sports and entertainment with you. You can also visit theseurbantimes.com. Follow us on YouTube and on social media, and check me out at Eldorado2452.
You can find me here Mondays, 1:45. It's Mina Say What. It's the Playbook. Thanks for watching The Playbook. I'm your host, Mina Say What, and you got something you want to talk about next week? You can always hit me up on social media at Mina Say What, and make sure you join us 1:45 next Monday on R&B Philly's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.